Let's talk TRADWIVES. Hi, and welcome to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Abby, and here we talk about common sense commentary. I'm really excited to have you guys here to chat about things that should be obvious in today's culture, but are for some reason made controversial. And I am really excited to start with TRADWIVES. So this is actually kind of a complicated topic, but since I have often been lumped into this category, I think it's important to talk about. So let's just hop right in. I was recently interviewed for an article in the New Yorker called The Rise and Fall of the TRADWIFE. Now, this article was actually not about me really at all. It was really focused on one person and one person alone who is a part of the TRADWIFE movement and her story, and they kind of brought in other women in this area of the internet as examples. Whenever you're interviewed for anything, you know for the TRADWIFE movement, it's gonna be a hit piece. The internet hates TRADWIVES, okay? Let's just get that right out there. The fact that there is a subset of women who are rejecting the feminist narrative that says that women have to be girl bosses and need to find fulfillment through work and that being mothers is too hard. You can imagine that people really hate that. It makes a lot of people angry. So when the author of this article reached out and asked me to answer some questions, I knew that this wasn't going to be coming from a friendly perspective, but I also know what I think and what I believe, and I knew that if I sent her my answers in the body of the email, if she decided to take some of my words out of context, I could easily share my answers with the internet and say, hey, this is what I actually wrote. So today I actually want to use the answers I gave her for that article as the basis of this video. But I think the first thing to start off with is the term TRADWIFE in and of itself. Now, TRADWIFE is a term that is a classic case of semantic overload. What does semantic overload mean? It means a word that has been imbued with a ton of different meanings to a ton of different people. So one person may use the term in one way, and another person may use the term in a totally different way. And when they're talking to each other, they're trying to have a conversation about something that they understand completely differently. TRADWIFE is a really good example of that. For some people, TRADWIFE means a traditional wife, meaning someone who accepts the differences between men and women, different gender roles. And for another person, TRADWIFE might mean being completely submissive to your husband. Women should never work. The idea that a woman would work is actually undermining her femininity, etc., etc. Now, you can see how those are very different understandings of the term, and having a conversation when both people understand it differently would be kind of fruitless. And that's why I have never called myself a TRADWIFE. I have completely removed myself from that conversation. I use the term classic. That's why I'm classically Abby. I believe that there are differing gender roles and that women have a really special role in the home. But I don't believe that women are so submissive to their husbands, and I know that this term can be used differently based on your religious perspective, but from the perspective of a woman who can't come to her husband and say you need to improve in certain areas because she is subjugated to his will, I will never agree with that. I think that women can work if they need to work, meaning if you need to get food on the table, then you need to work. Like, that is more important than your presence at home in any given situation. If you need to get food on the table, if you need to pay for a roof over kids' heads, like, making sure everyone is provided for is the absolute number one priority. But I think for many women who choose to work nowadays, that isn't the case. They choose to work because it's their own self-fulfillment they're looking for, and it doesn't matter if it hurts the kids. I think it's much more important for a mother to be home with her children, especially in the first 3 years, than it is for her to kind of get what's hers, as they would say. So what are the good ways we can view the term TRADWIFE? How can we view it in a positive way? And what are the less positive ways that it can be understood? So the positive ways are traditional gender roles. Women are really wonderful mothers, right? We are meant to be there for our children, raise our children. There's a reason that women can breastfeed and men can't. Nurturing is a fundamental part of femininity, and that is what makes women amazing mothers and why they are so necessary at home. I think men are providers. Now, what does provider mean? Back in the day, it didn't mean only financially that they had to go out to work. It just meant that they were the ones in the fields. They were the ones working to make sure that the family was fed. And women could contribute to that as well. Many women worked in the fields alongside their husbands, and it was a familial task to provide for the family, but husbands need to protect and provide. And I think the feminist movement has really undermined the importance of women's role in the home. And in an attempt to get women out there working, getting what's theirs as men do, right? There's this concept that men had it all and women were put in a comfortable concentration camp, as Betty Friedan wrote in her book, The Feminine Mystique. Women have given up this incredible, beautiful role that we do have at home, where we get to make the home better and warmer for everyone in it. We get to be the CEO of our own household rather than working for someone else. And that is an amazingly beautiful thing. Now, from the negative side, I think that the term tradwife can also connote women being subjugated, women being second-class citizens to their husbands, where they can't offer criticisms or advice or have a role in improving their husband because they are secondary. I can't get on board with that. I think that every marriage is a partnership, that both partners are trying to improve the other so that you each are growing over time. And when you have this idea that women are secondary, then you aren't giving women credit for what they can bring to the table in their marriage, in their household. When it comes to the term tradwife, I don't think the idea that women have a unique and beautiful role as mothers is the only thing that tradwife means, right? That's what I was kind of talking about, is that the semantic overload of that term makes it so that it doesn't mean what it should mean, which is just having the traditional values that come alongside being a mother and a wife. Women are absolutely necessary to their children thriving. And I think that's what's been lost over time, is that we've gotten so invested in expressive individualism, the idea that like you have to be yourself and fulfill your dreams, and whoever comes at the cost of that, it doesn't matter. Your children can't come at the cost of your dreams. The truth is that once you have children, your dreams are often fulfilled by becoming a mother. Like, your child is your dream. That is an amazing thing. You see your child grow and it's amazing, but outside of you, you kind of don't matter anymore once you have kids, because you now owe your time to your children. They deserve your attention and they need it. It's an incredibly important and deeply honorable role women have as homemakers. And when I say that, I mean making a home for their children, for their husband, for themselves. And this role has been tragically undermined and denigrated by our society, because we think that we can pretty much outsource all of it. We could outsource the cleaning and the cooking and the time that we spend with our kids, because we'll put them in daycare while mommy goes out and finds herself. It's actually really depressing when you think about how these roles that offer women so much fulfillment and joy have also been completely undermined. And it's been said that these roles are a waste of your time, they're a waste of your potential, when there's no more important place that a mother can be than with her children. Unfortunately, that isn't how we view things anymore. She should be out showing off how smart she is, showing off that she can, get a promotion, rather than teaching her child to be an incredible member of society. The question is always, how can your family be best served? And if that means that a mother has to work to provide for her family, then that makes sense. That doesn't undermine her femininity or her traditional values. She's doing what she can to make sure her family is provided for. But if it's about her and her self-fulfillment, then that isn't a traditional value. That is a selfish pursuit of yourself, of your dreams, rather than putting your family first. And that's not to say that a woman can't work in the time when her children are busy, right? Like, my son is napping right now. My other son is kind of playing while my mother watches him. And I am taking this time right now to film a video. That makes sense for my family because I'm not taking away from them. And to be completely honest, at this point in my life, I work about 5 hours a week. I record and I edit in the evenings after my children go to sleep. I don't take away from my children so that I can fulfill my potential. I want to do something that brings me joy. This brings me joy, and I think that it can help my family in certain ways because it helps us just pay for groceries essentially, but it doesn't come at the cost of my children's health, happiness, or thriving. But I think one of the more controversial takes that I personally have about TRADWIFE content is that I believe that homemaking really starts once you have children. A stay-at-home wife, I don't think is as valuable as a stay-at-home mom, because I don't know what you're doing all day as a stay-at-home wife that is putting your family first, if that makes sense. Meaning the cooking and the cleaning and the homemaking aspect of things, I think is very important, even just as a wife before you have children. But there's a lot of hours in the day, and I don't think that that's going to take nearly as much time. So I don't know what you would be doing otherwise with your time that is not helping the family financially. Because I think once you have children, if you're planning on being a stay-at-home mom, maybe before your children come along, you do have a job that means you can save and help provide for your children, so that once you do have children, you can stop working and give them your full attention. That may be more of a controversial idea. Leave your thoughts down below on that. But I was never a completely stay-at-home wife. I worked very, very hard on Classically Abby before I had my children. I was working many more hours a week to establish myself. And then once I had kids, this became something I could do much more on the side. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that in the comments, so drop your thoughts down below. Okay, so I realized as I was editing this video that there were a few things I wanted to talk about that I didn't mention. Things may look a little different because it's evening, but we're gonna chat about them real quick. So some of the things I want to talk about as regards TRADWIFE stuff is the aesthetics of TRADWIVES. I think that there's a lot of confusion that the aesthetics of being a TRADWIFE are the values of being a TRADWIFE. And with this, I heartily disagree. One of the big things about being a TRADWIFE is like sourdough and wearing beautiful dresses while cooking in the kitchen. I don't think that those things are values that are important to being a traditional woman. I think that cooking is a really nice thing, and cooking well is really nice. I think that looking nice for your husband and embracing feminine clothing is beautiful. But if you're not spending all day in the kitchen because you prefer to be out and about with your kids, I think that that is a perfectly valid way to be a traditional wife and a traditional mother. I think if you prefer to wear jeans and a t-shirt because it's more comfortable when you're out with your toddler than wearing a gorgeous dress that you're gonna have to dry clean, I think that is perfectly valid. I know that for me, I am the kind of woman who likes to wear nice dresses that I can throw in the wash, and that I like to be out and about with my sons all day rather than be home cooking, because it's more fun for me to explore the world with my children than it is for me to be in the kitchen all day. Now, I enjoy the process of cooking with my sons. I think that it's fun, but that's not an activity I want to do every day. So I try to find different ways to cook well for them without it taking up my entire schedule. And the way that I approach motherhood may not be the way someone else approaches motherhood, and that's okay as long as the kids are the top priority. You get to decide what that looks like as far as the activities you share with your children. The other question I think that comes up a lot with the TRADWIFE content that we see on the internet, like Ballerina Farm, is does it make it look too idealized? Is it too unrealistic? Does it make women feel bad? And I think that that is silly. When women are trying to put out content that makes being a mother look appealing, we should be happy about that, right? It should appeal to the women who may be questioning whether or not they even want to become mothers, or whether or not staying at home looks like fun. That's a good thing that we're giving them a view into this world that is very positive. As a mom already, if you look at that content and it makes you feel bad, maybe you should rethink the way you're approaching things. Maybe you can consider if there's some things that you want to do differently. Otherwise, if you are confident in your approach to your mothering, then you shouldn't feel bad looking at somebody else's stylized version, because that's what it all is. It's all stylized. They're not showing us the dirty kitchen. They're not showing us the 30 dirty diapers they changed. They're showing us the highlights, which we know it's social media is. So if you can look at that and take away things that maybe you want to incorporate into your own lifestyle, rather than being mad at the person who's putting out stylized content, which we all know they do, maybe that's the way to approach it. But I don't think that putting out an idealized version of being a mom and enjoying your day-to-day is a bad thing. I think that it's a nice thing, and we can be smart enough to parse through that and say, okay, is this actually something I can relate to if I can understand that it's also a highlight reel. But the last thing that I want to touch on is, how has the term tradwife become so political? Like, why is it so political? And I sort of touched on this earlier in the video, but I think what it really comes down to is the rejection of second and third wave feminism. So if you know the history of feminism, it started off as equity feminism, which is the stuff you kind of think about when you think about feminism, which is women getting the right to vote, stuff like that. I think that's great. Sure, women should absolutely have the right to vote, and we should be equal in the eyes of the law, all of that. Then we start getting into second and third wave feminism. And second and third wave feminism are under the umbrella of gender feminism. Gender feminism is an offshoot of Marxism. Marxism says that there is always an oppressor class and there's always an oppressed class. In gender feminism, what that looks like is women are the oppressed class and men are the oppressors. So women, no matter how successful they are always going to be oppressed simply by virtue of the fact that they are women. So a woman at home is the perfect example in gender feminism of someone who is oppressed. Men get to go out and work, men get to have all the fun, women are locked at home, they have to be subservient, they have to serve their husbands. This is the problem with the idea of being a tradwife, is that you are rejecting that idea. You are saying that men are not the oppressors and women are not the oppressed. What it really is that men and women are different. And women thrive taking care of their children. Women thrive taking care of their homes, and they are doing something really important. Whereas men, not that they have to go out to work, but the fact that they are providing for their families, protecting their families, is their role. And a lot of feminists hate this tradwife, stay-at-home mom concept because what it looks like to them is that women want to be oppressed. Women who are home with their children, or tradwives, if you want to use that term here, reject that idea. And we say that we love men. We don't hate men for being oppressors. We love our men for being different than we are and for providing different things to our families. So that's kind of how the tradwife thing crosses over into politics. But I think one of the important things to keep in mind is that being a stay-at-home mom, and this is a whole other video we're going to talk about, being a stay-at-home mom, taking care of your kids, it doesn't have to look like being at home. It doesn't have to look like being lonely. These are modern problems with the stay-at-home lifestyle when really it should be communal. It should be supported. It should be fun to go out all the time. And it's not just about being at home in your home. I know that me as a stay-at-home mom, I am rarely at home because I take my kids out and about constantly. But I think that this conversation about tradwives, the reason it's so hot right now is that women are trying to come out of the narratives that media has sold us. We are trying to understand what really brings women fulfillment. What really is the beauty of being a woman? Is it just trying to be men as hard as we can, even though we're different? Because that's kind of where we're at. We're encouraging women to put off having kids longer and longer, pursue their careers, to have sex before we're married, to do all these things that men do. And by the way, I'm not saying that these are good things that men do, but men do them. Maybe there is a wisdom to the traditional values we have heard about, we have seen in the past. There may be a wisdom to that. And I know that for me, embracing my feminine role, embracing my womanhood, embracing being a mom has brought me so much more joy and fulfillment than any other career could have, because I get to see my children grow every single day. I get to be present for them every single day. And I get to see what my presence does that if I wasn't around, they wouldn't get. So I'm glad that there is a conversation to be had about tradwives. I don't, again, fall into that category so much because I don't like to embrace that term since it has so many different meanings, but I'm glad the conversation is being had at all. And I think that there are beautiful things about being a traditional wife, a classic wife, a classic mother. And I think that's really part of this, is that it should almost be trad mother rather than trad wife. But I know that living with traditional values is the way, is the best way to live. So that's my thoughts for today. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think about tradwives? What's your understanding of the term? And if you watched all the way to the end of this video, I would love if you would leave a fruit emoji, your favorite fruit. Leave it down in the comments below. and I will see you guys in my next one.